UFC 309 is right around the corner, and boy oh boy do we have an absolutely unstacked card. Remember when the UFC used to take us MMA fans to MSG and put on 3 title fights, or 2 title fights and an amazing feature bout? Now they've taken it for granted. They've given us an uncompelling main event, a good co-main event, but a bunch of unranked fights, good prospects like Beneil and Ruffyyy, but keep in mind, this is our once-a-year MSG pay-per-view that they're giving us these types of fights on. So it is what it is. We got some predictions to make, starting with our uncompelling main event, Jon Jones versus Miocic. Of course, we're going to go with Jones. He's been training with Gabriel Stevenson and Gordon Ryan hella for like the past 3 months or so, meaning that, in my eyes at least, he's going to look to take down Stipe immediately into this fight and look to do what he did to Gall, but it's not going to be that easy because Stipe is aware of submission threats as we've seen in his career so far, so he's going to be trying to avoid those, but then you have to deal with the elbows of Jon Jones, especially the 12-6s. Now that they've been established, it just makes sense for him to use it. At least he's going to look to control Stipe on top when he's in his guard or half guard when he steps into side mount. So those elbows are going to come down raining. So, yeah, even if it's on the feet, like Stipe's boxing is good, it's accurate, and Jones does lack in the boxing, field. But Stipe's arms are just short. The reach isn't there. And the punching is way slower than like the fighters Jones has faced and struggled against at light heavyweight. And it ain't going to be much faster when at 42 after a 4-year layoff. So, and even in his pad work, Stipe does not fully extend his punches, which is, where you can usually catch Jon is well at the end of your punches. So, yeah, it should be Aspinall, doing the fighting, giving Jon a real run for his money. But the guy's ducking. He's pussying out, and he doesn't want the smoke from Aspinall. Even though I give him a slight chance, it doesn't really matter. It is what it is. And I'm giving Jones a slight chance before the Stipe fight. It's such a 50-50 fight that if he doesn't look good against Stipe, I will go back on my word and then pick Aspinall to win, but I'm giving like the slightest of advantages to Jones. But he doesn't want the smoke. He doesn't want to prove like anyone to anyone that he is like a GOAT who's willing to put his title on the line. So it is what it is. Co-main event, Oliveira Chandler. I'm going with the upset. Michael Chandler, like, no matter how many times he loses, he's gonna be the same in all his fights. He's gonna be bull rushing his opponents. He is really good at backing people up against the cage, and that's where Oliveira can struggle most. That's where he struggled, a lot of times. Like against Dustin Poirier in round 1, he got backed up a lot. Even against Saryukian in rounds 2 and 3, Arman was able to really push him back up against the fence with not like the best striking. Yes, like it's effective, but like it ain't Michael Chandler haymakers. Those land, and they did land against Oliveira in the first fight. And the Weasel said it well a long time ago. Whoever backs up in this fight is at has a strong disadvantage and will lose the fight. Of course, seeing like Chandler, the moment he backed up against Oliveira, he was open. The moment he backed up against Poirier in round 1, he was getting cracked. The moment he started backing up from the center against Gaethje, he got dropped bad. So I see that happening. I see that not happening because it doesn't happen. That's not the first thing that happens. That's not the first thing that happens in Michael Chandler fights. He's usually the one storming the gates and pushing his opponent back. Again, against Oliveira. Against Dustin, he did it first. He backed up Dustin first, Dan Hooker, even Justin Gaethje in round 1. So I just see that happening. When it comes to the grappling, yes, he got submitted by Poirier, but that was after getting hurt a lot and reversing. And that was Poirier reversing what Chandler did and taking his back and submitting him. When it came to the early rounds against Oliveira, he was able to survive. He was able to survive and stuff. And I don't see Oliveira going for a takedown. He doesn't really go for takedowns. He goes for clinches and then he initiates his grappling and takedowns. Not an immediate double leg. That was more of a one-off in their first fight. So yeah, I'm going to go with Chandler running towards Oliveira. He looked really tentative in my eyes on the boxing side of things against Arman in round 3. And he can be tentative as well, as we've seen in his previous fights. And I think Michael Chandler will land one on Oliveira and get the job done. But obviously, Oliveira has a really good route to winning, as he's obviously shown it before against Chandler. Beneil versus Paul Craig. I think he's just going to do the same thing he did to Cody Brundage. The first round, yes, he's going to take him down and control him. And then the second round, he's going to do the same thing, but get a sub. Brendan Allen just did this, 2 fights ago? Before the Kyle Borralho fight where he got brutally knocked out. He lost to Brendan Allen via sub. And Brendan Allen was just shooting takedowns over and over again. And Paul Craig, if you just avoid that triangle, you're fine. You can push those legs aside, get your arms at Craig's thighs and just throw those legs aside and step into side mount or something. And then Paul Craig will give his back or something like that, like he did to Brendan Allen. And Beneil will get a second round sub. Even if that doesn't happen, Beneil will still get the takedowns and at least take it to a decision and win all 3 rounds in unimpressive fashion. People saying that Beneil is going to knock out Paul Craig because Paul Craig's chin ain't there. The chin isn't there. But Beneil's striking isn't good. He jousts into his opponents. And Paul Craig, with his chin being bad, at least he moves around well to some extent to avoid instances such as a jousting Beneil. So we're gonna go with Beneil. We're gonna lock it in, of course. Lock in him winning, of course. So yeah. Now, Araujo versus Karine Silva, a main card banger. The don't know if you don't know now you know type of fight. So sorry. Yeah, Karine Silva, I ain't impressed with her grappling. She doesn't have good wrestling to initiate it as well. Doesn't mind giving bottom control. And Viviane Araujo is good. She's good at scrambling. She has decent enough takedown defense. Better on the feet with the boxing. And I think she's just going to do enough to slightly, edge a win over Karine Silva in rounds 2 and 3. Yeah. It is what it is. That's all I got for this fight. Ruffyyy versus Lawn Top. Lawn Top, I just want to point this out. Possibly the worst tattoos in UFC history. Look at that line on his chest. FFC on the neck. Some random ass tattoos on the face as well. Sorry. And the Fighting Nerds tattoos, at least they're bad tattoos, give them powers of some sorts. And they look decently cool. James Lawn Top ain't got it. Back to the fight. James Lawn Top just got pieced apart at range by pocket boxer in Vyacheslav Borshev. Huffy is possibly one of the best guys at lightweight when it comes to long punches. And people like to make the young Conor McGregor comparisons. I'm looking more towards a Pereira, who instead of pulling back with and engaging with hooks and knees and stuff, he does so with straight punches. And yeah, I just see that happening. The far superior striker, I think he'll just get an early knockout of Lawn Top and dispose of him. And Lawn Top doesn't have anything to offer in the grappling side of things. So, yeah. Ruffyyy, first round. Even if it's not first round, it's still a lock. He's going to win. Martinez versus McGee. I'm going to go with Martinez to lose this one because he likes to use the leg kicks and do the clinch. His boxing ain't there, and I think that's where he's going to crumble. It's going to be Marcus McGee kind of surviving out the first 2 rounds, avoiding the kicks because he is good at using his own kicks as well. And I think that will allow him to do the same defensively as well and avoid Martinez's kicks. He also has really good footwork and circles a lot in his fights, at least in my eyes. And Martinez is not going to be able to land those kicks with great effect if you're going to be moving around the bigger cage, by the way, the bigger cage. Martinez has been winning a lot and getting his leg kicks off in the apex cage. Wasn't doing so to Aldo, and Aldo, yes, is a way better, kick for kick guy than Marcus McGee, but even though being a little less superior in that area compared to Aldo, I think McGee can kind of do the same thing, but he does have more crack in his boxing, and I think in round 3, by avoiding what Martinez does and slightly out damaging him, he can capitalize on Martinez's lack of, boxing defense and land one on him and put him out for a TKO. So, yeah. Now, Weidman versus Anders. I'm pretty shocked that Weidman's an underdog in this one because Eryk Anders does not, he gets guys down, but, he doesn't do much with it. And Weidman, he's capable, at least. He is decently capable in terms of, wrestling. Yes, he's decent or was decent offensively, and may not be now as of now, but I think at least, the skill set's embedded into his mind and stuff, and he can do enough to keep Eryk Anders at bay. I mean, Marc-Andre Beneil did it, and he's not, he's big, but he's not the best grappler, defensive or offensive-wise, so I think a guy like Weidman can do it too, and he has decent enough boxing for a guy like Eryk Anders. Even though he did eye poke the crap out of Bruno Silva, the boxing was still there. Even against Brad Tavares, the boxing was there to some extent. So I think he'll get a narrow decision over a guy like Eryk Anders. So yeah, we'll go with our Weidman to get this one done. Same kind of tale. No, not really. Damon Jackson's gonna win this fight with his grappling. I kind of got my Weidman prediction messed up in my mind, but compared to this fight, but Damon Jackson's gonna get this one done. We saw Alexander Hernandez show a good ability to be physical and control Jim Miller in the clinch and use his striking to a good extent and get the job done and get the decision over Jim Miller. And I think Damon Jackson will do the same. He is good at grappling and stuff, and he is good at riding out to decisions. One performance that comes to mind is the Dan Argueta one, where he spams some takedowns against a guy, and Argueta who likes to spam takedowns back. The only concern and the reason I'm not making this a lock is Jim Miller does have some haymakers that somehow land in round 1, and a guy like Damon Jackson, who's really just straight up, has been known for getting chinned. And I think a guy up a weight class who is good at haymakers and stuff in Jim Miller possesses a great danger in that first round for a guy like Damon Jackson. But I think he's going to avoid it more than likely and get a decision through his grappling. So, yeah, that's that. Tybura versus Denis. I haven't seen much from Denis to show that he can get it done against a proven guy like Tybura. And even though Tybura's been losing and stuff and not looking, the best in some of his fights, but hey, at least he did sub Tuivasa and stuff. And he did, he did sub Tuivasa. But the point I'm trying to get at is he goes for the takedown immediately. Jonathan Denis, was getting handled, not getting beat up, but handled in the grappling with Austin Lane, and Austin Lane isn't the best martial artist at all. He didn't do much with his grappling against Robelis Despain, and he was able to do that against a guy like Jonathan Denis for at least a round. So, and survive it out at least. And I think Tybura will do the same. I think he will go for it early on. And maybe Jonathan Denis starts to defend it in round 3 and win that round and maybe like cause Tybura to get wobbled or something. But I think the first 2 rounds, you're going to see Tybura go for the takedown immediately like he did against Tuivasa, like he did against Volkov. I know that was 3 years ago, but it still kind of ties in with his recent form. Even against Spivak in the rematch at the Covenant Apex, highly anticipated rematch that was. He went for the takedown. He went for the takedown immediately, got subbed, but Jonathan Denis is a striker at heart, so he's not going to be going for the sub and stuff. So I'm going to go with Tybura to at least win the first 2 rounds of their fight. Now, McGee Gall versus Ramiz Brahimaj, 2 grapplers, but one of them has a great deficiency in the wrestling realm, and that's Ramiz Brahimaj. And at least McGee Gall is good to some extent in tying up and going for the grappling and stuff, so I'm going to trust him to do that. He even looked good on the feet against Basil Hafez, had some crisp boxing, so maybe if they choose to respect each other's grappling and it stays on the feet, I'll trust a guy like McGee Gall, who looked good against Basil Hafez and had some good moments even against Mike Malott before getting knocked out. And, Mike Malott is good for the lower level of the welterweight. When you're talking about the top, 30 or 40 of, the welterweight division, at the top of that, area, it's Mike Malott. He's right. He controls the gates from 30 and down. And, at least McGee Gall was able to land some good shots on him before getting clipped and put away. And I think if it stays on the feet, Gall has a good chance. Again, he had a good showcasing last time out. But I think he will tie up Brahimaj and submit him. So, yeah. Now, speaking of Basil Hafez, the takedown merchant, he's going to look to shoot on his Welsh gangster opponent, Oban Elliott, immediately. And Oban Elliott looked great against Preston Parsons in the grappling area of things. Defended the takedowns. Defended the spammy takedowns, might I add, of Preston Parsons. I believe that was the guy who he fought last. I don't have the name in front of me, but it was a heavy grappler. And he did reverse it in terms of shooting some of his own takedowns. I don't think he's going to be doing it against Basil Hafez because Hafez is going to be pushing a pace to the point where you're not going to really want to try and, counteract that with your own grappling. I think a guy like Elliott's going to look to do the same thing and sprawl and brawl like he did in his last outing. So, he might lose the first round, maybe get controlled a little bit, but sprawl and brawl, use the boxing like JDM did, but even better in terms of the takedown defense and get the decision 29-28. Now, this underdog absolutely shocks me. Weidman, okay, there's a case for Anders to maybe out physical him in the clinch, which I still don't think is likely. But this one, why? Why is Veronica Hardy the favorite? She hasn't been fighting any good competition. Jamie Lynn Horth, what was it? Juliana Miller, that mantis looking lanky, gal, who won tough with a 3-1 record or 4-1 or something like that. And she takes these gals to a decision. She takes these gals to a decision without doing much. And she's been grappling these gals and controlling them out, but Eduarda Moura is the stronger grappler and the one who's willing to shoot more. Yes, her takedowns got stuffed against Denise Gomes, and that makes her takedown accuracy numbers look bad. But she shot 26 takedowns and landed 5 of them against a gal in Denise Gomes, who is pretty much top 15 caliber. So, taking her to a split decision is actually good in my books. And Veronica Hardy, just even on the feet, Eduarda Moura not the best boxing, but what does Veronica Hardy have to offer? She has some decent enough kicks, but that's about it. And they don't even really land. And even if she does want to go for the grappling, I just don't see it working out. Maybe it does play into my theory of, Eduardo Moore is a great offensive grappler, but not a good defensive grappler. Yeah, you can be a great offensive grappler, but not a good defensive grappler. Maybe that's how it plays out, and Veronica Hardy somehow does get her takedowns, but I don't see her stuffing them, especially if Eduardo Moore shoots more than like 15. I don't see her stuffing them all in the later rounds. But yeah, baffling. Maybe she upsets, the odds in my eyes. I actually thought she would be like a minus 250, but she's at plus money for some reason. She's still a lock for me. Like, I think she's going to get it done via decision. So, yeah. And then to our final fight, which is not the pay-per-view opener, but, like, it was announced so last second, I just couldn't be bothered to rearrange the slides. Announced by the pimp of matchmaking, Big Marcel, sitting in his mansion, just making fights left, right, and center. David Onama versus this 8-3-1 Romero. Going on to Tapology. Oh my god, I don't know why I said it like that. Tapology. Like 97-3. It shows well. David Onama's a scrapper. He'll throw hooks. He'll pressure a guy in Romero who looks to get the finishes himself. And, but not at a good level. He's a can crusher. Look at his first 7 or 8 fights there, against 1-1, 1-0, 0-1 guys, and he even lost to a couple of them. Just nothing too impressive. Hasn't fought anyone proven. So we're gonna go with the proven David Onama, and we're gonna lock him in for to win the fight, and we're gonna say he does it with a first round TKO by immediately just running into Romero and disposing of him. But yeah, that's it for the predictions. Hope you enjoyed my reasoning and whatnot. Like or dislike the video, and yeah, if you got any other opinions, the comment section is there for you to dispose of said opinions. But yeah, that's that, and hopefully the Aspinall fight happens with Jones. So yeah, peace.